So again, for those of you who kind of don't know who I am, I wear an activist hat. So again, I've been part of medical marijuana here in Oklahoma since it started. I did write the first petition that we circulated in 2014. It looked a lot like California's law. We turned around and were not successful in 2014. We changed the tone here in Oklahoma, but we petitioned again in 2016 with a petition that I did write, and that one ended up becoming our law. So I kind of have the unique distinction of being the only activist in the United States to have a medical marijuana law in the books. So it's kind of cool. And I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of the law. I'm very proud of you guys. I'm very proud of everything that we've been able to accomplish here in Oklahoma. And we've got more to do yet, right? So we've set this state up really well. But we need to guard what we've done, and we need to continue to develop what we've done. So Oklahoma is the only state where you can research medical marijuana. Do you know that? We have a research license written into our law. So again, it hasn't been let yet. No one has gotten one yet, but certainly it is available and should be, fleshed out by our legislature. And that's going to be something that's really important later on. Oklahoma also has the ability to export marijuana. Do you guys know that? Yeah, think on that one. So again, that hasn't really been fleshed out in the law yet either, but it's there in the law. Another hat I wear is I'm kind of an expert, if you will, on something that we all have called the endocannabinoid system. So I speak, and I know I've seen some of you before in maybe an endocannabinoid talk. So I'm deep in the science. We have a great relationship with the University of Mississippi. We do a whole lot of, let's say, baseline endocannabinoid research, and really are trying to get the science, laid down on this system. And that's one of the really important reasons why we need to be able to research here in Oklahoma. Research is a big deal. You can't do that nationally. How and where would you do that? I mean, you can go to University of Mississippi and get NIDA marijuana. That's one strain, by the way, of Wohaken. It's so frustrating. So think about this, okay? And sorry, I'll get into the trade organization in a second, but this just frustrates me. So if you wanted to research medical marijuana in the United States from 1968 until today, and you're a real researcher, a PhD, let's say you're at OU, want to go study marijuana, its effects on rats or whatever. So you've got to apply for a grant to be able to get the marijuana through National Institute of Health and then through National Institute of Drug Abuse. There's one place in the country that they grow all that marijuana, that's University of Mississippi, and they have the one contract. So my wife and I got invited down there. I got invited down there to speak on the endocannabinoid system because they don't know anything about it. So it's really interesting. But anyway, we got invited down there, and so we got to see the garden and meet everybody. And I'm talking to the guys, the PhDs that run the garden, and I said, well, what strains do you guys grow? And they said, Wohaken. And I said, what strains do you guys grow? And they said, Wohaken. I said, you grow Wohaken? Well, what else do you grow? Wohaken. Why? Well, we can grow the heck out of it. We can get it to, it's 12% every time. It looks the same. We have SOPs around growing it. We can get it to do this every single time. I'm like, oh, that's great. That's really cool. Good for you guys. Now, think what that means. Every single bit of medical marijuana research in the country. You guys know about indica and sativa. What's been done just on this, just on this, just on Wohaken. All this over here we don't know about. All this over here we don't know about, right? So anyway, sorry, not trade organization, but it's frustrating. So we need to do better, right? We need to do better. So how do we do that? Well, right now we can't do that through the normal mechanisms. The FDA won't let us do that, right? So we're left really with a state situation where we have to set up state research to be able to start all this and at least begin to try to do it right and try to provide some model for the FDA to grab. But we have the opportunity to do that here in Oklahoma, okay? And I'm also a commercial license holder, so we have process and dispense license here in Oklahoma. All right, so let's get into the trade organization. Our program, I guess it depends on kind of what side of the fence you're on, but our program, bar none, is the most successful medical marijuana program in the country. Bar none. we're almost at 10% now. This slide's a little old, but we're 8% when I did this slide. So this was 2 months ago. We're almost at 10% now. That's crazy numbers. Do you know how, well, we'll get into it, but we're a state with a population of 3.9 million. So depends on how you kind of look at it. Is that successful or not? Well, certainly we're getting a lot of patients, and that would indicate success. And certainly we have a lot of commercial license holders, and that would indicate success. So I'd say we're doing pretty good. If you look at how we compare to other states, this is done on population, but also percentage of population. So you can look down there and you can see Oklahoma as a giant standout. And you know, how many other states have 7% or 6% or 5% of their population as medical patients? The only state that even comes near us is California with 4%. And you know, that's a total crap program, right? So no one is even close to what we're doing, which is cool in a way, and it's scary in a way, and it needs to be better organized in a way, and we need to get our crap together or we're not going to have this forever. And I'm serious. If we don't get our crap together, all you guys who want to be commercial license holders will be in a completely different situation than the people that are out there now. So again, if you look at kind of what's happened, I put in here the first do no harm because one of the intentions behind the law here in Oklahoma, all right, so really had 3 principal tenets. Home grow was one. Why in the hell should you ever be denied the right to grow your own medicine? Good luck knocking down that tree. That ain't gonna happen. And not with, you know, by we the people here in Oklahoma. Second principal tenet really had to do with medical conditions. I'm an endocannabinoid researcher. I know medical marijuana affects my endocannabinoid system. There is not one disease of dysregulation that can't be addressed in the endocannabinoid system. So why the hell would you limit your program to medical conditions? That is beyond stupidity. That is beyond folly. So we did not take the national model there. But what we did do is we created a situation where if you're a physician, it's different here in Oklahoma. You're on the hook, baby. You can get sued for malpractice. You have to have a defined doctor-patient relationship. You have to have a medical record on every single medical patient here in Oklahoma. You know why? Data. Well, that's why I wanted to have it. But again, it matters. You know, we should have a defined doctor-patient relationship. If this is a real medical thing, those physicians need to understand your condition. They need to be helping you with it. They need to be better understanding marijuana. They need to have their minds opened up to this endocannabinoid system. So again, the third thing that we did here in Oklahoma, and this is why I'm telling you this at this slide, is that we let free enterprise dictate here. Now, some of you guys might not like that. Again, if you're a big operation here in Oklahoma, you know, I don't want free enterprise, right? I want a free and clear field. I want a restricted environment like it is in Illinois or New York, right? Where I've got my license. It cost me $30 million, but I've got my license and no one else can get one, right? So we didn't want to do that here in Oklahoma. Again, we did this by we the people. And $2,500 in a dream, go for it, baby. But that's created a situation here in Oklahoma. And it's created a situation and really the need for something like a trade organization because we have so many first-time business owners, never owned a business before, don't know how to do accounting, don't know how to do HR, don't know how to do all of these things, don't know what an SOP is. They are unsophisticated business owners who have a dream, which is good, but they've just never run a business. They don't know how to operate a manufacturing facility. They need help, and we recognize this here, right? So again, without some help, a lot of these businesses will fail, and that's sad. We really don't want that to happen. We want to support basically the situation that we started. So how do you do that? Well, one of the ways that you do that is with a trade organization, right? So with a trade organization, if we were all making widgets, right? And if I'd never made a widget before, but I want to get in the widget business, I'd go find the widget trade organization and I'd join it because they're going to tell me all about best practices in making widgets. And they're going to have some kind of lobbying effort that's going to help keep our widget legislation right? They're going to help me. They're going to help me professionalize. They're going to help me understand business. They're going to help me in a lot of different ways be a better operator, more professional, better customer service, better patient service, all of those things. That's what a trade organization does. A lot of us view it as an expense, right? Costs me money. I don't know, I got to weigh it out. Is it worth it or not? Costs me money. It's an expense. But again, in a situation like ours, it is a necessary expense. Without this expense, you are not protecting your investment in marijuana because it's so dynamic. The legislature could come out next session and do away with our program. I'm serious. If they wanted to, we'd fight it like hell. I don't think it would happen, but some wacko idiot could propose it. Again, we have to guard the gate here. So not only legislatively, but with best practices, with tools, with more purchasing power, with things like that, right? So anyway, we have all that in mind. The other unique thing that we're doing, and we've already kind of launched this, and once we have enough kind of critical mass, if you will, with dispensaries, we'll launch the patient side of this. Now, the interesting thing about what we're trying to do is if you look at, so let's go back to Widgetville for a second, okay? So Widgetville, widgets already have customers. People have made widgets forever. You don't have to go find customers for widgets. There's already an ecosystem. You can go to widget distributors and send your widgets to the widget distributors. There's 100 places where you can send your widgets, right? It's not so in our business. Our business, there's no Chamber of Commerce, there's no Better Business Bureau, there's nowhere to go, right? So if you want to help as a patient, who's helping you right now? I mean, you might be a part of a small group of patient advocates, but is anybody advocating for you at the Capitol? Is anybody advocating for you with patient rights? Is anybody advocating for you for better prices at a dispensary? No. So we want to be that. So we want to take these two different pieces, patients and businesses, and kind of put them together where we're all talking and benefiting from what we each have. So and the patient piece of this is really important. But when we do this, we want to make sure it's a win-win, right? And so what we envision on the patient piece is, $50 a year, right, per patient. And that means so much. That will help us so much with lobbying and all these efforts. But what we want to do is make sure that you get 10x value for that. So once we have enough participating dispensaries, you'll get a 10% discount at every dispensary, which should pay for that 10 times over, right? You'll get other things too, and dispensaries are beginning to see this as an extension of their loyalty program. So again, if they are OK for you approved dispensary, they can extend out and kind of grab their patient base as members, offer them value, offer them additional deals, stuff like that. So it's a kind of an extension, or dispensaries could view it, I would say, as a dispension of this. I can't talk. I'll stop for a second. An extension of their loyalty program. Why was that so hard to say? I stutter sometimes, so if I get stuck, you just guys come up and kick me. But so far, so good. Haven't gotten stuck yet. But I do kind of lose my words sometimes. So, okay. So what are the principal tenets of OK for You approved? Trade organization, patient union. All the commercial businesses that want to join OK for You approved and have joined OK for You approved, we want to come see you. We want to put you through an OMMA audit. We want to compliance check you. And then when we're done with that, we want to leave you with an SOP checklist. So we're going to leave you with a checklist to help you build SOPs for your dispensary or grow or whatever if you don't already have them, right? So that's a lot of value. In fact, it's funny, we wrote all these. We have a committee that has worked on building all these SOPs, and they're all commercial license holders, and bigger ones, which is good. But we immediately had an outside trade organization, national, want to partner with us just to get the SOPs, okay? So these SOPs are meaningful, and again, there's something that you need to have in your business, whether you kind of realize it or not, if you're in the commercial business. The Relief app will be a way that we're going to tie kind of patients and commercial business holders together. And again, you're going to be hearing a lot more about that soon, but that is there and available now. And our commercial businesses are turning up on that Relief app. Relief is really cool. Just real quick, if you've never seen the Relief app, again, it's free for patients, so you can download it now if you want to. What it does is it says, what's wrong with you? And you say, oh, I have RA, rheumatoid arthritis. And so you put that in, and it basically goes out and it looks for products that other people with rheumatoid arthritis have rated high as a satisfaction. So it might give me some vape pens, some flour, some edibles, whatever, but it's going to give me these selections and ratings, and it's also going to tell me where to go buy it, okay? And if where to go buy it is an OK for you approved dispensary, it's going to have a badge. So you're going to see badges and all that. When you go buy that product, again, you're going to rate it whether it works for you or not. Now on the back end, well, first of all, on the science end, there is nothing out there, believe it or not, that ties condition to treatment to outcome with marijuana. There's no science, right? Nobody's done that study. People have done minor studies, but nobody's ever done that in a big way. So again, this will be a way to do that. What's your condition? How are you treating it? What is your outcome on a 1 to 4 scale? That is exactly what the Relief app is, which is a wonderful thing. So that's scientific data that's really interesting. That data, by the way, is owned by you as a patient. So if you say, well, I don't want my data used, you pull your data. It's not a big deal. So no one owns that data. Relief doesn't own that data. But anyway, think about this on the business side of this. So you get the Relief dashboard. First of all, if you hire that new bud tender, right? He's not trained up yet. You have a patient come in and say, I have RA. Do you have anything that'll work for that? He can go to that thing and go, show me all the stuff that works for RA. And then he can look at how many of those products are in his dispensary. And gosh, if he's smart, he's getting questions about this all the time, he's going to probably purchase based on that list, right? But he's going to see all the products that people have rated with satisfaction and how satisfied they are. Again, if you're a dispensary owner, also, you're going to be able to see how people are rating your dispensary. If you're a product maker, you're going to see how people are rating your product. If you're a grower, you're a specialty grower, let's say you grow for RA, you're kind of going to want to know that feedback, right? So it's kind of a neat thing. Anyway, more on the Relief app there. So how are we going to do this on the political side? A lot of voices in Oklahoma, we just said, almost 10% of our population, so almost 400,000 patients right now. We have, over 11,000 commercial businesses. Not all of those are licenses, so not all of those are operating, as we know. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of voices. So how we intend to do this is almost like a political party, which is kind of what we almost are with 10% of the population. But what we're going to do, we've already broken out into committees. So right now there's literally 30 people that are kind of volunteering to build all this and have been for the last 3 or 4 months, because we know that the commercial industry we got to kind of show you content and what this is going to be about, before you'll buy into it. We're assuming, hopefully, maybe you'll buy into it before that. But anyway, we've been doing that, so it's already out there. But what we're going to do is, again, let's say the dispensary committee, just for lack of a better example. So the dispensary committee will have a section out on Slack, and Slack is a discussion board, right? So they can discuss any topic they want. They might be discussing dispensary safety, or how to do a better job of not being robbed, or all kinds of different things. But what we expect out of that committee is that they're going to give us their top 3 priorities, right? Or top 5, or whatever they are. So give me your top 5 legislative priorities, and we're going to expect that to bubble up out of that committee. And every single committee, those will be planks in our political agenda, if you will, that will slide to legislature sometime pretty soon. So again, we're going to have planks associated with dispensary, grow, process, patient rights. Wherever we need to have planks, we're going to have planks. And legislators are going to understand what we want as an industry. And I think this is really important because, again, what is leadership? Is leadership sitting back and letting them tell us how it's going to be? No. And we have the ability to lead this here in Oklahoma, but we need to tell them what it looks like, right? We need to tell them where it should go. And that's a trust thing, and so we're building that right now. But anyway, that's the way that we intend to listen. We intend to listen to all these segments. We'll build our political agenda, and we want to make sure that, again, every voice is heard. So if your voice is the outlier, it's going to be heard. It might not be in the political agenda, if that makes sense. But certainly your voice will be heard, discussed, and everyone's voice needs to be heard and discussed. So this slide is July. It's been really interesting, too, to sort of put this together. It hasn't gone nearly as fast as kind of the people who are putting it together had hoped, certainly me being one of them. But it is moving at a very, very good pace. We've got all these shows, that we're doing. So I don't know if you're from Oklahoma and you're in the industry, if you've seen any of the Wednesday wrap-up shows, but we've been doing those for about 2 months, 3 months. We've had a lot of labs on there. So a lot of kind of ancillary businesses, and labs is kind of a big deal here in Oklahoma right now. But anyway, this kind of shows what we're doing and what the kind of intended rollout of this is. We really wanted to launch this in a big way at Green Grow, and it just didn't, happen the way that we wanted to. So the nice thing is there's all this content out there that continues to be built. And, if you join now, you're not necessarily, you need to join now, really. So it's time to join. We just don't have any sales effort out there yet. So eventually somebody's going to call you and say join, but it'd be better if you joined before then. So right now, again, we're doing all this with a bunch of volunteers, a bunch of out-of-pocket expenses. But as we begin to build a budget, we'll begin to cover partial operating costs and full operating costs. When we do that, then we'll fund a PAC, and then we'll fund contingency. What does that look like as to, partial versus full costs? So staffing, we have an executive director, we have a content manager, and these are functions that are being performed now. Just no one's getting paid as these functions. But all these things are happening now. So again, if you have a patient issue and you call us, we have an attorney that we can call and help with that. We haven't been able to pay the lobbyists yet. That's in our budget. Lobbyists are expensive, and we can't get a lobbyist to volunteer his time. But eventually we'll be able to do that. And by lobbyists, I'm talking about not Ron Durbin, not Chip and Cynthia Paul, not Chris Moe, Uncle Grumpy, not Norma Sapp, not activists, but lobbyists, right? So, and a lobbyist is a little different. A lobbyist will, works issues all the time. A lobbyist can help us with the Senate where we're not as connected, and with the governor's office where we're not as connected. So we need a professional lobbyist in this. All right, so again, allocation of funds. This was the presentation to the board, so you're getting some stuff that is board stuff here. But eventually, we see this being significant enough where we'll be able to do potentially expos and things like that that are more, we wouldn't get in the way of CannaCon by any means, but that are more local, specific, pop-up events, things like that. We're already kind of extending this to doing a little bit better patient drives, just a little bit kind of soup to nuts patient drives with education and bringing in like an autism nonprofit and a, seizure nonprofit, things like that. Okay, and again, like everything here in Oklahoma, we're sort of throwing it out there and hoping that it sticks. We're trying to lead this. We're trying to do what we hear you guys saying. So if we don't quite have it right, we'll modify and we'll reshape and we'll go at it a different way. So yeah, good. Okay, perfect. So we've got a lot of time left, which is what I wanted to have happen. And I want to talk to you guys about something, okay? Because And you guys might be from out of state, that's fine. But I kind of want your feedback, really. So I am a cannabis patient. I did all of this as a cannabis patient. I never really intended to get, and my wife too, but I never really intended to get in the industry, and it just we've kind of been forced in the industry, really. But cannabis is my passion, right? But I am being approached by a whole lot of people, and I am also seeing the benefits of the science behind psilocybin, okay? So I want to talk about that with you guys. I just want to get some feedback on what you guys, so we're cannabis people, it's our plant, it's our vibe, it's our thing, but how does that relate to psilocybin? Does that ring anybody's bell? Do you guys have an interest in that? So I know you do, April. But do you guys have an interest in that? You know, is that something that if we decide, and not as a trade organization, so let's sort of separate that, and I'll go over as Chip. But if we decided to start something along those lines, would that be something that do you think that might be efficacious and good? Okay, so I'm seeing some yeses, so that's good. Any no's, hard no's, think that's a bad idea? And again, the trade organization won't be doing cannabis. This is kind of a separate thing. Okay, good. It's really interesting. Psilocybin helps reset the brain. And again, cannabis affects something that we have called an endocannabinoid system. The endocannabinoid system is your master regulatory system. It runs every function in you. So anything that you can think of that's a regulatory function, blinking my eyes, body temperature, how fast your heart beats, how you digest food, when you eat, when you don't, when you feel full, when you don't. All those things are regulatory things. Seizures is a regulatory thing. Autism is a regulatory thing, right? So all of these things, any disease that you can think of that's regulatory can really be addressed in the endocannabinoid system, okay? So that's really cool. That means that really there's no disease that's beyond the reach of what we can do in the endocannabinoid. So how do we manipulate the endocannabinoid? We can do it with cannabis. We can also do it with other stuff. And there's a lot of plants and herbs and all kinds of stuff that'll manipulate the endocannabinoid, and that's all coming attractions for us. But let's say I'm a PTSD patient, okay? And again, I just want to illustrate the importance, I think, of psilocybin. It's not like cannabis, but it is important because it performs a significant action that I don't think we can do with cannabis or any other way, okay? So, and what is that action? Well, if you study what psilocybin does, psilocybin is really interesting. You guys familiar, you've heard about dopamine and serotonin, right? So dopamine and serotonin are what run our happy sauce in our brains and give us cognition. So let's take this PTSD patient, all right? So if every 5 seconds, if you were real jittery and I went, bah, and I scared you, bah, you would have a fight or flight event, right? So you're gonna dump all your neuros. You're gonna dump norepinephrine, you're gonna dump your dopamine, and you're gonna dump your serotonin. You know why? It's really cool. You can run fast, you can think good, and you're real happy about the decisions that you make. But that's fight or flight, right? So you dump all your neuros, you get through the situation, and then you crash, right? PTSD patients, if you're in a war and you have a bomb going off, fight or flight, go to sleep. Fight or flight, fight or flight, fight or flight, fight or flight. Eventually, you get stuck. Your brain, you're not happy or sad anymore. You're normal or fight or flight, right? And that's what PTSD physically is, literally, okay? So how do you change that? I can provide you endocannabinoids or herbs that will help the regulation of those processes and potentially give you more access to dopamine and serotonin, which might make you feel better. But that whole fight or flight off and on, it needs a reset, okay? And that appears to be what psilocin does, is resets that whole situation, resets the neurology, and opens up additional pathways. So how it does it is really cool. So we're all familiar with SSRI inhibitors as a horrible thing, right? So SSRI inhibitors, what they do is they allow more dopamine or serotonin, more time on neuroreceptor because they sort of guard it from the thing that normally comes along and basically stops the reaction. So what psilocybin does is it actually does that, but it also gives you a whole lot of action at that neuro. So that's really good for your brain, all right? Really, really, really good for your brain. And it's looking like that there's a lot of research here, FDA research, which is a little different than cannabis, right? So it's completely different than cannabis. But anyway, blah, 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 blah. So you guys have any questions about Oklahoma, about the trade organization, about the endocannabinoid system, about mushrooms, about any of that? Fire away. Oh, but he's coming with a mic. If you don't, I'll just talk. No. So what he asked was, do you see us moving the way that Denver did, or Ann Arbor, I guess, just did something, where it's a city kind of council kind of situation where they're decriminalizing? No, not really. I mean, I think if we go at this, we go at it like we went at marijuana. And we go at it with, proper licensing, and so license grow, and maybe we do it on top of the program. Could we do it on top of the program? Would you sell them in dispensaries? Natural medicine? I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I think. Again, if it's a different growing thing, but it could be a growing license in this situation. So, but that's CHIP. That's not the trade organization. Just be real clear on that. But that's kind of what we're thinking. So more of a statewide, to answer your question, more of a statewide program that's fully endorsed, and all Oklahomans, or however we do it legislatively, we give the thumbs up to. Do it legit and right. Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's part of the thought for the association to gather data from the industry. So for example, pricing data or growing data, provide that sort of best practices back to the members, and if so,
yep.
How would that flesh out?
Yeah, we envision that. We're not there yet, but one of the things in Oklahoma is, and are you from Oklahoma? Okay, so one thing that we just have made a decision on, but it'll take 2 years probably to implement, is seed to sale. So a lot of that data can come from seed to sale, which is interesting, a lot of those metrics. A lot of it now is manually assembled through the Oklahoma Medical Marijuana Association. What we can do, though, is we've really built a lot of trust with them. Like, I have a meeting, our official trade organization introduction to the OMMA is Friday. So we have a meeting with Dr. Williams, who's the new director of the OMMA, on Friday. But we've been working with them for the last 3 months. Like, we've done all this stuff with labs and all kinds of stuff. So we're trying to build a trust relationship with them where it's a real back and forth, professional trusting relationship, which is what we want. So yeah, and they want to be led. The OMMA, they want to keep their regulatory hat on, right? But they really want to be led, and they want to be led by the industry. But they don't want to hear it from Joe's Dispensary or Pete's Processing or, gosh, we just built a $10 million grow out here and we want to come tell you what we think, legislators. They're happy for you, but you don't speak on behalf of the industry by any means. You may feel like you do because you have a lot of money or whatever, but again, I'll tell you a great story. It was an issue that I didn't really care about in marijuana, but it was interesting. And so we were up at the Capitol, and we go talk to our main legislators, and we're like, yeah, it's kind of a big deal, but it's not that big of a deal. And every time that we talk to them, they say, well, have you checked with this group? Have you checked with that group? Have you closed the loop? I mean, is this really what all of you think? Because you're saying it's not a big deal, but these guys over here are saying it's a damn big deal. So why is that, right? So again, legislators will want to make sure that as a trade, if we're speaking as a trade organization, that we've covered all of our bases and we've listened to our membership. But if you're coming up as an individual, or you're coming up with somebody with deep pockets, who's hired your lobbyist and you got your 10 dispensaries open, the first thing they're going to say to you or your lobbyist is, what does the industry think? mean, we're not here to do special stuff for you guys, even though you have a lot of money. Everybody seems to think that, well, not everybody, but some of these bigger guys seem to think that they can go out and, buy a lobbyist and that they'll somehow represent the industry. That may work in New York or Illinois or whatever, but it don't fly here and won't.
So I heard out on the streets that there's different levels of a membership.
Yeah.
Can you go over any of that?
Yeah, so what we've done is we've really created kind of 3 membership tiers. So the $2.99 a month, and again, this is not, if you're used to look at what some of the other trade organizations cost, but $2.99 a month is not that bad. So that's a top level. For $2.99 a month, you get everything that we talked about. You get the compliance review, inspection, and all that. One of the other things that you're going to get, not even talk about this, we have a brilliant board. It's the best nonprofit board, and I'll get to kind of your question in a second, so I've got to go through the value. But at the top, we have a brilliant board. On this board, we have the head of banking, MRB banking, for a major bank here in Oklahoma. And I'm telling you, that is unusual as hell on a marijuana trade organization. We have 2 attorneys, 2 physicians, so we have a really good board, but we have our treasurer is a very educated, professional, and experienced cannabis CPA. So he's been at it about 6 years. And he comes along a couple of months ago and he says, I think that the IRS has mentioned a way around 280E, okay? And there is a way around 280E. It's not a game. It's IRS guidance. He's filed now 2 tax returns under this guidance, but where you can deduct expenses, okay? And it's expense sheet oriented. It's 471 something, I think it was called. But anyway, you get that. So we're going to give you all of that information, how to do that at the $2.99 levels, which is really valuable if you're a dispensary. And again, he's going to be doing seminars and stuff on this, but you'll get that too, which again, that's a lot. And then the next level is sort of a 149 level, and we call it the craft level. Okay, so again, you're not gonna get the 280E stuff. You're still gonna get inspected and all that. You're gonna get relief, and you'll get the relief app at $2.99. But you're not going to get everything. And it's really more for the mom and pops that are struggling and for your craft growers. So again, I might be a craft grower. I'm growing 100 plants. I'm growing them for seizures. I want to join the trade organization, but I ain't going to pay $2.99 a month. I don't need all your stuff, right? So we try to make a whole for kind of craft. And then we have a $49 level that is really just, we love you guys. We want to help you. But we don't kind of need anything else that you're doing. We want to help you lobby. We appreciate you. So, so a lot of ancillary businesses are joining kind of at that $49 level to help us, like, paper companies and junk like that, right? So, yeah. Does that pretty well answer? Okay. Okay. But different levels with just different, and what's the right amount, what do you charge? We have to be able to support everything that we're trying to do. The patient piece, frankly, will help us a lot with everything that we want to do. One of the reasons why trade organizations kind of fail is it's very hard to get our industry motivated and, to kind of part with funds. So we've tried to hedge as much as we could because this needs to happen, guys. If this doesn't happen, we're weak. All right, and we're weak because we're still united as patients here in Oklahoma. I mean, I see that with the rec bills and all that have come out, but on the commercial side, we're not. We're scattered and selfish and all that, and we need to really come together. So, what else we got? So you guys are seeing the value and the need for this, right? So, and if you're in the industry here, I'm sure you are every day. So good. Okay, good. If we're missing the mark, let us know, okay? We're in the most unique and cool situation here in Oklahoma. We have the ability right now to really protect the industry, but that may change, with the next election cycle. We're very lucky that we have Representative John Eccles. We're very lucky that we have Representative Scott Fettgetter. We're very lucky in the leadership in our House, but again, that could change next election cycle. So we need to build our fences now. We need to make sure we're guarded and good. If we don't, we'll get run over. So, and again, it's all about just us coming together and spending $49 a month, and I think everybody can do that that's in the business. So, okay, all right. If there's no more questions, we will leave it there. Thank you, guys.